Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered, behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have a really exciting interview ahead of us about leaving a career in finance to pursue a dream of helping women date to find love. Today, you'll be meeting Renée Suzanne, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who wants all women to know that they can create the kind of life they love. They don't have to wait for it just to happen to them, and that at your age, being over 50, you're still in the game. Welcome to the show, Renée. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Suzy. I'm delighted to be here.
I know we're going to have a really good conversation today about your midlife entrepreneur story. We'll be talking about your business, what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way to some extent and maybe challenging for you in your life as well as being a business owner. So let's start with my favorite question. How old are you? And can you tell us a little bit about how long you've been an entrepreneur and details about your business and your journey to get where you are today?
Sure. Yes. So I am 55.
Woohoo!
I have been an entrepreneur since I left my career in finance at the age of 47. So how long is that? Almost 8 years now.
Yeah.
And it's been quite the journey. I got a degree in finance a little later after I already had my children. And it was just really, I was a single mom and I needed to get a job and take care of those kiddos, get the health insurance. And so I wanted a very predictable, very reliable career path. And it was that. And I did well. And as the kids left the nest, I found myself wondering, like, is this all there is? Do I really want to do this for another 20 years? But what else would I do? And in the meantime, I had been a single mom and struggling really hardcore with dating. And that was my passion project, was how was I going to figure out this dating thing? I really wanted a loving partner in my life, but I was not doing so well at that at all. And that was the intersection of coaching, because I finally decided to hire a coach to help me because I was just at a loss of how to navigate dating successfully and had always been kind of a personal development junkie anyway. And then
But what was getting in the way with dating?
Well, having 4 kids is just probably not the sexiest thing you can do. So for a long time, I thought that was the problem. And I kind of just intermittently gave up. But then when I was a very young mom, so I was an empty nester at 40. So I moved to the city and I thought, oh, this is going to be fantastic. I'm an empty nester. I'm still kind of young. Their dating apps, not dating apps, dating online was a thing by then. And I thought this is going to be fine. I've totally got it made now. And then I saw that maybe it wasn't the kids. Maybe I had some work to do. And I hired a life coach. And I still remember my friends going like, what have you done? You've actually paid someone money to teach you how to date. And I'm like, look, ladies, I got nothing. If you got a better idea, I'm all ears. And we were all single, and it helped. I'm happily married now to a man I met on Tinder. And I loved my experiences working with coaches so much that when I was looking at what would I do in my second chapter, when I left the cubicle, I actually saw it as a viable career, which that wasn't a thing back in the day,
No.
Yeah,
it wasn't a thing. And I can see why your friends were skeptical, because I remember when I first had somebody in my circle tell me they were a coach, and I thought, what is that? You're not a psychologist. You're not a clinical anything. What do you mean you're a coach? What is that? And then there was the whole, transition from bricks and mortar learning to online training to become a coach. And then that was confusing too. It's like, I felt I was curious. I was drawn to it, but I couldn't figure out how to understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, I had that same mindset too. I remember my first exposure to a life coach was I went to get my hair done, and there was a sign at the receptionist desk, like, if you would like to work with a life coach, we have a life coach. And like, what is a life coach? Something you get at the hairdresser?
What does it have to do with my hair? That's great. Well, I love that you help women find love. I know we met years ago in another context. And in fact, you are on my other podcast, Women in the Middle. And so I think, I don't know if you remember this story, but I met my husband through a personal ad before online dating, like where you write a letter and it goes to the newspaper, P.O. box.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. How
It was
long
a
have you been
while
together
ago.
now? Yeah. Because that was obviously pre-match.com.
It was pre everything.
Yeah.
It was well, I guess we met in 93.
Wow.
I think it was 93. Yeah. And yeah, it was, I had other friends doing it too. Some of my friends thought it was weird, but I was in my early 30s and I thought, I need some help. I'm not meeting enough people, or I'm not meeting the right people. I was also confused, but I didn't know anything about life coaches back then. That was a long time ago. So what was the biggest thing that you learned about yourself that helped you really move forward and find love?
Oh my God, that I was making choices that were not consistent with what I said that I wanted.
Mm,
And I couldn't see it. I just couldn't see it.
wow. What were you was it who you were attracted to?
Well, my pattern was to get a crush on some unavailable man who was never going to date me. And he would just be the only guy I wanted. No one else was
Oh,
acceptable. And I mean, slightly embarrassed, but to admit how long I would do this for. I mean, one guy, it was like 8 years, and then another one for 5 years.
that's great.
I was so completely clueless. And then I would be like, oh, it's because I have all these kids. Well, no, it was because I insisted on the only acceptable man to date was one who would not return my affections. So then I had like sort of an evolution. So then I evolved to unavailable men who would date me, but didn't want anything serious. And then I finally saw through a lot of coaching and work on this that I was choosing these men. I was handling myself in such a way as to attract those men and keep them by essentially by lying to me. If I'm going to be
Mm,
brutally honest, I was lying to myself.
yeah.
And I wish someone I I do some tough love in my coaching. I wish someone had been straight with me. All of my friends, knew that I was doing this, but it's not your friend's job to get in your face about things like this. But when you have a good coach, I tell my clients, look, you pay me too much money to lie to you. You hired me to help you find a good guy. And that's what I am here to do.
That's so good. But I bet that was the best education you could give yourself for the work you do now.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I still remember the last guy I dated before I met my husband, who dumped me via text right before Christmas, that I really shouldn't have been dating, and I knew better. I remember sitting down after that and writing down all the ways I had put myself in that situation, every single way I had put myself in that
Mm,
situation. And it was clear as day. And I just never did it again. And I had this belief that, oh, well, the really good guys, the guys that are super desirable, they'll have lots of options. I'll have to charm them. I'll have to finagle them away from all the other women. And there'll be lots of drama, and I'll have to prove that I'm the best woman. And no, actually, that's not how it worked at all. My husband and I went on our first date. He was wonderful from day one. There was never any drama. He texted or called me every single day. And the old me would have been like, oh, he's so needy. What's wrong with him? Why isn't he trying to date other women? And I'm like, no, this is exactly the kind of guy I need, you know?
that's so great. And I guess the other thing that I read in your notes, it came out very loud and clear, was that so many women think that they need to wait, that waiting is the way forward. And instead of creating these opportunities, they wait. And, I see the same thing in my practice, that women our age tend to wait for something exciting to happen.
Oh my
And
God,
not
please don't
realizing
wait.
that we have to create the excitement. We have to create what we want. So tell me how that shows up
Oh my
for you.
goodness. It breaks my heart because I am a serial waiter. I would wait and wait. Oh, when the kids grow up. Oh, and maybe things settle down at work. It'll be, when this guy that I think, will notice me one of these days, he'll come to his senses and realize how amazing I am. And, or I used to be, very religious to the point where I would think I'm waiting on God. It'll be so romantic when God or the universe brings me this wonderful man that is surely out there just waiting. I was like, oh my God, no. I didn't wait on God to find a job. I didn't wait for that college degree I worked so hard for to land in my lap. I got my behind to class every day and earned that college degree. I went out and interviewed for that job, and I saw that waiting was not doing me any favors. And I just decided to cut that out and put myself in a position where I could have the things I wanted by getting rejected sometimes. Yes, by maybe having some dates that didn't go anywhere, but it was better than waiting. Oh my goodness. If I could talk to my younger self, that I would tell her, please don't wait. Please do something for yourself.
Yeah. What would you say the typical ideal client for you looks like? Because I'm sure there are probably different categories of the way they describe themselves, but what's a typical single woman say, and what's her experience when she's frustrated and reaches out for help?
Well, she's successful in other areas in her life, and she just cannot understand why this part isn't working because, she's successful. She has friends, she has family, she's happy in her career, she's proactive in other things. And this dating thing, it's like, trying to teach yourself to speak ancient Babylonian from a book or something that you checked out of the library. It's like, how do I do this? And
so where's the confusion coming from? Is it the dating apps, or is it being single again after decades? Like, what is it?
It's some people are resistant to trying online dating and apps, and the ones who aren't, they've tried them, but they're not working, usually because what they say they want and what they are doing or actively doing in life does not support what they say they want. So, for instance, they'll say they want a loving partner who is there for them and will commit to them and participate in a committed monogamous relationship, but then they'll sort of insist that he be really exciting and sexy and know where all the good martini bars are. And that kind of guy isn't the settling down, being a faithful partner kind of guy. So they think and then they say, well, I can't help what I want. I can't help what I'm attracted to. But in a lot of ways, you kind of can. And you can train yourself to want things that are good for you. Just like when we know as midlife women, you cannot roll through the Burger King or McDonald's or whatever, or Dunkin' Donuts drive through every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and still insist that you want to be healthy and fit and, feel good. So you might say, well, I can't help it. I like Burger King, McDonald's, whatever. I can't help it that I like that stuff. But you can make different choices, and you might learn to like a salad once in a while if you give it a shot. Same thing with guys, but people romanticize, oh, I like this big, exciting guy who never calls me. What is so exciting about a guy who never calls you and doesn't treat you very well and kind of isn't maybe very nice to you? Why is it exciting?
What do they say?
Mostly that it never occurred to them. Like, why do I like this? I was talking to a woman last week, and I said, why do you like this guy who actually was kind of mean to you? Well, he was attractive.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny. I caught way back in the day when I did meet my husband, he wrote in the letter that he was sensitive, he was giving, he liked adventure travel, and he played clarinet. And I thought to myself, I play saxophone. So I'm like, what's wrong with him? Why doesn't he play saxophone? It's a cooler instrument.
I love it.
Meanwhile, I was very happy he played an instrument, but I thought, Why doesn't he play saxophone? It's better.
We get ideas. The thing
Yes,
is,
we do.
ideas. We get ideas and opinions about things that we think the person we date traits they should possess. And they're largely influenced by what we see in these movies that have nothing to do with reality, things we read about in books, pop culture, songs about longing for, all the songs are about longing for someone or breaking up with someone or losing someone or how you're going to finally get to someone. They're not about the guy who comes home at 6 o'clock every day and remembers to pick up the dog food at the store on the way home. There aren't movies about that guy.
Yeah, you're right. No, you make a very good point. So what is like, how do you help these people? What do you do?
I help them. First of all, we talk about what it is that they really want. They probably do want the guy who picks up the dog food on the way home from work, and they don't want to wonder where he is and if he's ever going to call them again. So we talk about what they really do want and what the most important things are that they want, what's really important and what's just nice to have, and how they want to feel in that relationship. And then we get them a really good profile. I help them write their profile. They're going to be on a dating site and or a dating app and going out and meeting real humans, navigating those early date conversations, getting them from the site or the app to a phone call to an actual date to, are they going to go on a second or third date, and what all happens there. And in that process, all the things sort of rise to the surface about why they're not there already. And then we talk about those things. They start to see, oh, I'm not attracted to the nice guys. I want that hot guy who's dating 3 other women. Well, why do you want the guy who isn't calling you? Why are we still talking about him when Joe over here wants to call you every day? Oh, he's so needy. Well, sometimes when you're used to dating unavailable men, the relationship ready man will seem super needy. And we'll talk about that. What is he really needy, or is he just wanting to hang out with you and he actually likes you? Are we not used to the guy who actually likes you because it's been,
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's so good. And I can really see that being at our age and stage, we're also, very disconnected from a lot of that, let alone knowing what you want, but just talking to men that you don't know and going on dates and the first this and the first that. I'm not in that situation. It really does feel a little overwhelming.
Yeah, it can be. And that's why it is so tempting. Like the siren song of it all is, maybe my ex from college will just call me. Maybe God or the universe will just send me someone. But then every time some guy tries to talk to you at the grocery store, you think he's a weirdo and run away. So you're not even making yourself available for any of it. So even if God or the universe was going to send you someone, you'd probably slam the door in his face. So it's very interesting.
That is interesting. Okay, so now here you are, a woman over 50 who's running a business, doing something that you love, and you're in midlife. So tell me how classic midlife things are popping up for you and making it a little bit more challenging to run your business.
Yes, it kind of does. And I've noticed I used to have to get up at crazy o'clock in the morning to make the 6:09 train to get to the cubicle by, what was it, 7:30? I negotiated flex time because I wanted to be home earlier for my kids.
Oh my God, 6:09 a.m. train?
I was on the 6:09 a.m. train in the freezing cold to get down to the cubicle in Chicago by 7:30 so that I could get back home before the kids got into too much trouble after school, And that was hard. I don't think I could do that now, Suzy. I think I would die. So the energy levels and need for sleep and a lack of sleep. I used to be able to go to bed, and if you'd set my house on fire, I wouldn't have woke up until I saw St. Peter. Like there was nothing woke me up. Sometimes not even my alarm, but I would collapse in a bed by 11 or 12, and I had to be up by 5. And I would do that like for years on end. There is no way now. I need a minimum of 8 hours of sleep and sometimes more because my sleep isn't as deep. A dog down the street will roll over and I'll be awake for 3 hours or something
Oh,
because I heard
yeah.
it, or, you know.
Yeah, and people think, well, you're an entrepreneur, you have a flexible calendar. And we do, but we also have schedules. So if you have an appointment at 10 a.m. and you had a bad night's sleep and you really need to feel, rested to do your job, it's challenging. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little trick that I've learned, some people say this doesn't work for them, but I made myself try it, is in my experience, a 20-minute nap is so much better than nothing. And even, I could be like exhausted, so exhausted, I don't even think I could remember my own name. And I will set the stove timer so that I have to actually get up and turn it off and just lie down on the couch for 20 minutes. And at first, when I first get up, I'm like, oh, but 5 minutes later, I really do feel better than I did if I hadn't tried it. And a lot of times I cannot, I mean, it is what it is. And I got whatever sleep that I got the night before. But if I can even squeeze in a little 20-minute mini nap, it will tide me, like get me through the day. Also maybe a quick walk outside with the dog. It just gets some sunlight and some fresh air can help.
Yeah.
But yeah, the struggle is real. My schedule is flexible, but I do still need to do things with other humans, and I can't tell them that I need a nap and blow them off.
Definitely. Yeah. So I know that you've mentioned in your notes, and you mentioned it once already on the call, that you wish you hadn't waited so long to become an entrepreneur. And finally you're able to focus on your own dreams. So how does that come out? Do you find that you feel rushed? You feel like you're running out of time? Or, do you feel that you have just the right amount of time to focus on? Are you able to?
That's a real balancing act. I'd like to tell you that now I do try to cultivate the mindset that I am in exactly the right amount of time. I have whatever amount of time I have, and none of us knows for sure. And that is always my goal, to really believe that. But there are times that I think, wow, I'm 55, like a lot of women our age. Some of us have aging parents, and we're seeing like time is limited. We have a finite amount of time on this planet, of who knows how long we will enjoy good health and the energy that we do have. And I want to make the most of those things. And so even though I don't know exactly how much time I have, I know what I would like to accomplish and experience. And I also know how important it is to take care of my body and mind as best I can in order to maximize what I do have.
Yeah, definitely. And I know also you had mentioned in your note that you used to have these ideas about being a mom and a grandmother and an older woman, and what that meant for you. And it meant stepping into the background a little bit so that you could support others. And now, as an entrepreneur and somebody who's been working on mindset and connecting with priorities, you're finding a little bit of negotiation with that belief system needs to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I'm a step into the background and fade away kind of girl.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I love being actually more than I thought. My mother always told me, you're not going to believe how much you love your grandkids. And I'd be like, yeah. I had 4 kids. I was a very young mom. I was a single mom. It was so much work. I never wanted to see another kid again as long as I lived. And I really didn't. I like totally OD'd on kid. So then these grandbabies started showing up, and I was like, oh my God, it's ridiculous how much I love them. So my mother was right. And she probably won't listen to and gloat, I don't think, but she was right. And I love these grandkids. They come over and we do fun things, and they call me Gigi, and it's super fun, but there's way more to my life than that.
Right.
Way more. And I love that I have that balance so that I'm not living for when those grandkiddos come over, or why don't my kids call me enough, and what's going on with them. And no, I'm enjoying my life. And it's kind of funny, like even though I really, really do love my grandkids and my family, my son kind of reminds me, he's like, hey, do you want to see the kids this weekend? And I'm like, oh yeah, bring them over. But I'm not like pestering them like, when are you going to call me?
So do you feel guilt at all?
No, I'm surprisingly guilt-free. I know I'm supposed to be laden with guilt just by being a female and a mom, but
Some people, I interview a lot of people, right? And some people do feel a little guilty that they have so many other plans and priorities and they love the grandkids and they love their family, but it's not the only thing
yeah,
in their lives. Yeah.
it's funny. It didn't occur to me to be guilty. I have a lot, I had mom guilt as a younger mom, and now it's the craziest thing. I have dog mom guilt. Like
So do I.
I was like, who is this person? My husband and I were going to go out for a little cocktail last night after dinner. And the dog looked at me like, where are you going? And I felt so sad. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? He's a dog.
Well, the dogs really, COVID, that whole thing with COVID and everybody being home, all their favorite people were home. It does make it a little harder to leave. When I go on vacation or I was away recently and husband and, I was by myself away.
Okay.
And I was worried about the dog, even with some of his favorite people taking care of him.
I do that too.
It's so funny. They really are our babies. Even though my baby's 130 pounds, they're our babies.
You really are. I know my daughter laughs at me because I was kind of a strict mom. I had 4 kids and there was only one of me. And I know you can only see, like, I am not a big person. I am 5'2.5" if I stand straight tall. And my sons and one of my daughters all got bigger than me, and they would start patting me on the head when they walked by me. And I had to really hold up to, you can't have 4 kids and not have some boundaries, or you might as well just move out and send money because it's.
Well, the other thing that you haven't mentioned yet is how far you've come. And when I asked in the notes what a surprising thing was for you about being at this age and stage and being an entrepreneur, that's what you said. So where did you come from? Because I know that you really, you were a high school dropout. So what happened for you? Those are your terms.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at that note. Like you really did come from having a big hill to climb.
Oh, I sure did. Yeah. I got married as a teenager and dropped out of high school because there were some things happening in my house that were not being addressed. And that in my little 14-year-old brain was the only way to get out of it. So I dropped out of high school. I got married and had 4 children, and he passed away when I was 28. By then I had figured out, like, I had, first I started with the junior college. Well, I got the GED. Got my GED when I was 19, went to the junior college, mostly because I couldn't afford to work. And I literally could not afford to work. You can't make enough money to send 4 kids to daycare when you only have a GED. And I was thinking, like, what have I done with my life? I cannot afford to buy my kids Christmas presents. We are on food stamps. I have got to do something. And the only thing I could think of was, if I get a good education, I could probably get a job that would meet our needs. But
so you did all this as like your husband passed away.
Yeah.
And with the 4 kids, and then you went back to school?
I went back to school. I had already gone back to school by the time he passed away. I was in school. I graduated the year after he passed away, but that was rough. That was really rough. And so I couldn't be a full-time student anymore. I managed to earn a scholarship to Loyola University called the Presidential Scholarship, and it was only available to full-time students. But because he died, I needed to work to provide health care. So I had this job as a runner at the Board of Trade, making $7 an hour. And I would go to school at night, and that's what I did to finish college. And Loyola was so good to me. I wrote to them and I said, it's a private school. I couldn't afford it. And I said, I only have, I forget, 4 more classes. Can we work something out? I really want to graduate. And they did. And I am forever grateful. They saved me and my family. I mean, I showed up and did the work, but they were very generous in allowing me to continue to go to school when I didn't have the money for the tuition. They extended my scholarship and I didn't have to worry about covering tuition. And I graduated with honors and got a job and was able to take care of my kids who all went to college and are doing well. So yeah.
What a story, Renee. What a story. So it's amazing to me that you have come a long way, and thank God you realize that. But you're also surprised at how hard it's been to start a business. Now, when when I was looking at your note, and believe me, I feel the same way. But when I was looking at your note and thinking about where you've come from, and now you say, and it's also hard to start a business, and you would think that a business would be so much easier than the resilience that you needed to draw on to overcome what you have done so far. But yeah, it's not for the faint of heart to be an entrepreneur.
Oh my God, it's not. And I look at that and I think, why is that? Because yes, that was very hard. That was very, very hard. A few things come to mind. I know it was a choice, but back then I really felt like I had to in a way that I don't now. I worked all those years. I have my 401k. My husband's not going to throw me out on the street if my business isn't successful. So I'm not on the line the way I was then. I don't have 4 kids looking up at me like, you are the only thing we've got. Let's go. I don't have that urgency like I did then. And another thing my brain likes to say that I kind of like to question is, oh, you were young then. Oh, you didn't need 8 hours of sleep then. Oh, but I like to push back on that a little because this is where I am now. And I don't want to use being older as an excuse not to create the life I want. And I really feel like this is my mission in the world. This being successful at this business isn't just for me. It's for the women I can help. When I think about trying to date and how discouraged and hard that was, I'm glad that there were people there to help me, people who made themselves available for that kind of work. And I want to pay it forward.
Yeah, you're right. Because what our success means that we're helping more people.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it means. Like the more I can do my job and help people in the way that I'm trained to help and help people in a way that I know I can help them change their lives, and their lives are usually they're also focused on changing others' lives. So it really is a paying it forward kind of thing when you apply yourself. And we have to do all kinds of scary things as an entrepreneur. You have to put yourself out there. The women that you're helping need to put themselves out there, and visibility becomes such a huge issue with women our age. I would imagine, especially in your work, because eventually these women probably want to get intimate too. And then there's even more vulnerability and more really connecting with people it can be really hard.
Yes, it can for sure. But what is there if we don't take that chance? And I've been thinking about this a lot in what I've been doing in my business. I recently launched my own podcast. I have been putting myself out there to be interviewed on other people's podcasts, this one included. And thank you for saying yes. And, and I remember filling out the application thinking, oh, I said I was going to do this, so I'm just going to do it. Or sometimes, I made it my goal recently to reach out to 20 people to tell them about a free training that I was putting on. And I made it my goal. I'm going to reach out to 20 people, and I procrastinated, and I found myself on Friday afternoon reaching out to 20 people, and it was ridiculously uncomfortable. But I thought, like, okay, if I don't put myself out there, then absolutely nothing happens.
Right.
Nothing.
Right. Because nobody's going to find us. Like, it is so hard to be found. Now, at this point, I've had my original podcast I had for a long time already, since 2017, Women in the Middle. So yeah, people are finding me on Google, but for people to really find you consistently and for more people to find you, we have to work very hard for that to happen. It requires an approach that touches different things. It's online stuff. It's social. It's talking to people, one-on-one relationships, networking, referrals, so many things. So you're right. If you just sit there and you don't reach out, you can't help the people that you have been working so hard to help.
Yeah, it's true.
That's the bottom line.
I always thought when I would look at other successful coaches or even people who were successful in love or, I thought, oh, well, they were discovered. I had no idea when I started this business how much self-promotion would be required.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
most of us are squirming with that, squirming with discomfort. It's really almost worse being an older and wiser woman because we really grew up with the message that you weren't supposed to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So many of us did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's bragging or it's just not polite or, some kind of message like that. But really what you learn when you do get into business is that if you have a skill to help somebody and you're making an effort to help them, and then you don't make it as easy as possible for them to find you, you've dropped the ball.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
It's part of the whole thing. You need to, those people are looking for you. How are you going to help them find you?
Yeah.
So that you can help them. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So there's one last thing in your notes that I couldn't help noticing, but the skiing thing. So you're focusing on skiing now. I got to a point where I was an intermediate skier and then I decided, you know what? I don't really like it. I'd rather get a massage and let my family ski. So tell me, you actually like it?
I do. And I didn't see this one coming, Suzy. So I was trying to, as a single mom back in the day, I was trying to create opportunities for us to bond as a family and do fun things. And I got the idea that skiing would be fun. So I think I was about 30 or 31 with my 4 school-age children. We go to the nearest, what we call a mountain here in the Midwest wouldn't impress anyone. But we went to this place in Galena called Chestnut. And I was smart enough to get us all a ski lesson. But after the ski lesson, I don't know where I got the idea that a snowplow was going to be enough I didn't know how to do the weaving thing down the hill. I didn't know how to turn. I just knew a snowplow. So I got off the ski lift, pointed my skis straight down the hill and tried to snowplow. It was not awesome. It was I fell, I cried. I had so many bruises. I could barely walk the next day. It was borderline traumatic. And I just thought, I'm never doing that again. That was awful. I will never do it again. And that was a long time ago because I'm 55 now, as I just shared. And I married my husband, who is an avid skier.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'll try it. I will try it. And so we went to another place and he helped me. He stayed with me and made sure that I didn't fall and break anything. And it was scary, but also exhilarating. And I was like, oh, that wasn't terrible. So I started with, okay, it wasn't terrible. And then the next time he wanted to go skiing, I got myself a lesson so that he could go enjoy himself. And then I was like, I really do like this. And
good for you.
Yeah, there's this thrill of, it takes me out of my head.
Yeah.
Feeling like the snow under my skis and gliding over the snow. And there is a little bit of panic, okay, I have to really concentrate to make sure that I don't fall. And there are people skiing past me because I ski slower than everybody in the whole world. And people are just whizzing past me.
Not that you don't ski slower than I do. Oh, that's great. I'm so glad you found something you love and something to do with your husband. That's really great. So Renée, where is the best place for people to find you and check you out?
You can find me at ReneeSuzanneCoaching.com. And I also have a podcast called Find Love After 40 with Renée Suzanne, if you want to check out my podcast.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Renée. Thank you for taking the time from your day and sharing all of this stuff, your personal stuff, your professional stuff. I really appreciate how authentic you've been about, your journey, your entrepreneurial journey, and how you're doing this important work to help women find love. I really love what you're doing. You're amazing. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to connect like this. And thank you again.
Amazing. So, okay, that is it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would like to also come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.